Hey students, this is lesson 615. In this lesson, we're going to learn the midpoint formula. Go ahead. The first example here is just an example of what you learned yesterday, the distance formula. The second formula here is the midpoint formula, and let me just explain that to you by using coordinates here. So the coordinates of this point here is 1, 4. The coordinates of this point down here is 10, 2. Okay? And the midpoint is just a segment that's halfway between the two. And you can see from this drawing that the midpoint would actually be from the point on the x-axis halfway between the two x coordinates. Halfway between this coordinate right here and this coordinate right there. And really halfway between is just the average. And if you counted on the x-axis 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you see that we're at right now 5.5. And so the x-coordinate of the midpoint is 5.5. And then the y-coordinate is right here at y equals 3. And what you might notice is that if you take 1 plus 10, you get 11. And if you divide that by 2, you get 5.5, which is where that x-coordinate midpoint is. And really, we're just taking the average of the 2 points, the average of the x-coordinates. Now, the y-coordinates are 4 and 2. And if you find the average of those 2 points, 4 plus 2 is 6. And if you divide that by 2, you get 3, which is the y-coordinate of the midpoint, right there. That y equals 3. So the formula is just saying add the 2 x-coordinates together. So that's what this is saying right here. Add the 2 x-coordinates together, divide by 2, and that will be the x-coordinate of the midpoint. Add the 2 y-coordinates together, divide by 2, and that'll be the y-coordinate of the midpoint. So, so here's an example using some different points. So the points in this one example are 3, 6, and negative 5, 1. Well, halfway between 3 and negative 5 on the x-axis is 3 plus negative 5 divided by 2. Halfway between 6 and 1 on the y-axis is 6 plus 1 divided by 2. And that will be the coordinates of the midpoint. Now we can just simplify that. So 3 plus negative 5 is negative 2, divided by 2 is negative 1. 6 plus 1 is 7, divided by 2 is 3.5. So that's how you find the midpoint. So let's go ahead and do a problem here. Let's not find the distance. We already know how to do that. We got this new thing called the midpoint. We're using this formula. So we want to find the midpoint of the segment between negative 1, 3 and 11, negative 2 on a graph. So I'm just going to make a rough sketch over here so you know what I'm trying to find. So negative 1, 3 is approximately somewhere in there. 11, negative 2 is somewhere down here. So that is a line that joins it. And somewhere in the middle of that line is the midpoint. Okay? So that's what we're looking for. And we're going to do that by, to get the x-coordinate of the midpoint, we want to find the average of the x-coordinates. So we want to do 11, negative 1 plus 11, and divide that by 2. And then to find the y-coordinate, we're just going to take the average of the y-coordinates. 3 plus negative 2, divide that by 2. And then we're just going to simplify that. And we get negative 1 plus 11 is 10 divided by 2 and 1 divided by 2. And we could simplify that a little more. 10 divided by 2 is 5 and 1/2. So our answer to this one is 5 and 1/2. So basically, we're just substituting in coordinates into the midpoint formula. This midpoint formula is on that pink sheet that I gave you. So let's do one more together, and then I'll let you practice a few. So I'll do number 2, and I'm just going to write down the formula and show you how we're going to substitute. So we're going to subtract the x coordinates. I'll do those in blue. That's the 2 and the 6. They're going to go right here, 2 plus 6. And then the y coordinates are 1 and 4. They go here, 1 and 4. So we get 2 plus 6 is 8 divided by 2. And we get 1 plus 4 is 5 divided by 2. And then I can just simplify 8 divided by 2 is 4. And 5 divided by 2 is 2. All right. Go ahead and do 3 and 4 to practice. See if you get them right. I'll put the answers up here. So pause now and you can check back to check your answers. Okay, if you did it correctly, you should have got those 2 answers. I'm going to skip and do a problem like this. It's a little bit different. It says find the other endpoint of the line segment with the given endpoint and midpoint. So basically what we're saying is we have on the graph, this is number 21, we have an endpoint at -1,9, which would be maybe somewhere in this quadrant here. And then the midpoint is -9, -10, which is somewhere down here. -9, -10, and that's the midpoint. So I'll just call it M. So there's a line segment between those 2 points, and there's another point down here that we're looking for. And so, and this one is -1, 9, and the midpoint is -9, 10. Now, what I know from the midpoint formula is that if I add this -1, using a cup, plus this missing one here, let's call that x. If I add that together and divide by 2, I should get -9. And also, if I add this 9 and this missing one here, let's call that y, and divide it by 2, I should get 10. I should get the midpoint. So, so let's solve it that way using the formula. And so we know that if one point is -1, if I add my missing coordinate, we'll call that x plus -1 and divide that by 2. That'll give me my midpoint. And for my y coordinate, my missing y coordinate, let's call that y. If I add 9, and I'm just getting that from this endpoint, and divide that by 2, I'll get the y coordinate of the midpoint, and we are given those coordinates as -9, -10. So to get this -9, I need to find some number plus -1 divided by 2 that equals -9. Well, working backwards, I can just do -9 times 2, which is -18, and then I can add 1 to that to get x, which is -17. And just checking that. So, well, we'll check it when we're all done here. Let's do the y coordinate now. I know that y plus 9 divided by 2 has to equal this number 10. And so working backwards, I'm going to take -10 times 2, which is -20. Then I'm going to subtract 9, and I get y equals -29. Now let's just check it. So I think my other endpoint is -17 and -29, right? So if I had negative 29 plus 9, that's negative 20 divided by 2 is negative 10. That works. And for the x-coordinate, if I go negative 17 plus negative 1, that's negative 18 divided by 2 is negative 9. All right? Go ahead, you try that on number 22, and I'll put the answers here. See if you got it right. All right, if you did that right, you should have got the 0.8, negative 3. We'll do the other couple of these in class. If you want to go practice a couple more, you can. Otherwise, we'll talk about this next time we meet in class.